This is a video about why I'm not going to the World Series of Board Gaming. And I debated a long time about making this video. First of all, it's just kind of hard for me to make a video kind of like this. It's a whole mental thing. That's another thing. But I don't want to like crap on the event. If you're excited about going, I want you to go. I want this to be a successful event. But I just have some overall problems with it. I feel like the vibe is kind of off, and I wanted to make this video to explain why. So, here it is. Now, for starters, a lot of people really thought I would be very excited about this event, and for good reason. I've competed in video games for over 20 years. I love board games. I love competing. I've done sports, other things. I've run tournaments. So, naturally, this would be right up my alley. But as I just mentioned, for me the tone is a little off, and these topics here are the reason why. So the first one is the format, and honestly, I don't have that big a problem with the format. It's kind of tough if you're going to do like a multi-game tournament, then this is all right. It's tough to whittle down a large number of players to just one, but I don't know, single elimination, just one game and you're out in a multi-game tournament. Now, granted, you can enter up to 4 events, so you kind of have 4 chances in a way. But for each game, it's just one and done in a sense. Just the winner of each round goes on, and so if it's a 5-person game, only one person, and so on and so on and so on. I don't feel this is a very good representative of who's the best at a game, mostly because, well, let's get into it. For me, if you have the capacity to do the first round of the tournament with however many people, that means you also have the capacity to run multiple rounds of, say, a Swiss format or even just a multiple game format with the same number of people and take an average of scores. This would be way more indicative of strong play because the problem is the games selected, all of them have a high variance of luck, in my opinion. The only game that doesn't have luck in it after the initial setup is Gaia Project. Every other game can be affected by luck, especially if you're playing at a very high skill level or, against opponents with similar skill levels. So to have the winner be just the person that won, say 5, 6 games in a row in games with a healthy degree of luck, it just strikes me as the luckiest player, not the best. And then to whittle the winners of all these games down to one, it's also a bit weird. It'd be kind of like if you took Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky and had them play a game of tennis to see who's the best athlete. It doesn't really work that way. So having the winners play against each other in games that they didn't play before is just really weird. Not to mention, as I just said, a lot of these games are very luck based, including stuff like Raw, which is literally a push your luck game, or Catan, which is a negotiation game. Um, Drafting games, stuff like that. The winner of this, and then the person that is crowned the best of the best, could have won by winning their game, let's say Gaia Project, and then, or actually, let's just say something like Splendor, and then they could have won a game of Catan, then a game of Seven Wonders, and then won the finals in Raw. And is that like someone you consider the best all-around board gamer? I wouldn't. Which segues me a little bit into the game choice themselves. Now, I understand it would be very hard to pick any selection of games that would please everyone, but they're still a little weird. Um, a lot of the games just seem to be popular from different eras, and that's kind of why they threw Acquire in there. That's why Catan is in there, I'm sure, because I don't really think that Catan fits with any of the other games. It's got that kind of monopoly status where people hate on it because it was so popular back then that it's starting to show its flaws now. So, is it really still a popular game? And for that matter, you could have thrown in Monopoly. I really don't like the choice of Acquire. I think the game is too luck based, as are a lot of these games, especially Raw. Um, and then drafting games such as Seven Wonders, I I really wouldn't feel good about a one and done in that. And then there's a lot of other popular games like say I don't know Uno. You can add that. Then also like Coup perhaps. Other things. Terraforming Mars seems like a pretty glaring omission. I don't understand the popularity of Dominant Species Marine. That's a bit weird. Dune Imperium, I can accept. It's fairly new but very popular. I do have to clarify, I don't think the choices overall are that bad. I just need to get into the tone in which these games kind of lead into, and that is the advertising essentially. It's on the website. Leave nothing on the table. We want to crown the brightest star in board gaming, prove you're the best, that kind of stuff. And that's kind of the thing. There's already a lot of board game tournaments for two-player non-luck games, or even two-player games with a ton of luck, such as chess, Go, even Scrabble, that kind of stuff. And there's tournaments for Catan, and a lot of these games actually in the tournament, and all of them are not one and done. They are you play a bunch of games and you take the average or the general collection because the thing about these games is they're all multiplayer. And the thing about multiplayer games is even with a game with no luck in it, like Gaia Project, as I mentioned earlier, it's still influenced by how other people play. Now, when it's a one-on-one game, then that makes sense. It's you want to go directly against your opponent and block everything they do. But in a four-player game, even with no luck, if three people gang up on you, you can't win. A lot of the times, the difference between a win and a loss, especially against similarly skilled players, is based on what someone else does. Perhaps someone who doesn't even have a chance of winning. What they do can influence the game, and thus, if you get eliminated because someone else didn't want you to win, what can you do? If people don't trade with you in Catan, you're not going to win. If and that's another thing too. There's a runaway leader problem in Catan, and you're supposed to gang up on that person. So where's the skill? The skill is just being in the right place at the right time or getting lucky. And this isn't really how a tournament is supposed to work. So yeah, for these reasons, the whole prove you're the best thing just really falls flat for me. If the winner of this event comes up to me and uses this as proof that they're the best board gamer in the world, not only will I laugh in their face, I'll probably think less of them as a person. Like, seriously. And so the next thing I want to talk about are the rules in general, not the format, like I already explained, but the rules themselves. And actually, this is a bit of a pivot because I actually think the rules, as listed in the FAQ on the website, are pretty good. Now, they're a little vague, and I guess they have to be because you can't, it's hard to have specific rules about like cheating and time control and other things like that because then people will get overly specific and say, hey, if it's not specifically this, like it says in the rules, then it's not cheating. I can do it. Other stuff like that. And it's hard to have, rules for cheating and stuff without being very generic or general. And so I understand that part. But it does kind of leave it open to kind of hope and faith that the event will run well. The problem is that while people might cheat because this is for $25,000, which is a huge amount. Now, granted, some people may not think that's very much based on the entry being like $100 per game or so on average, but I know how much it costs to rent out a center, like rent out a place in Vegas and all that stuff. It's not. This is a significant investment. I won't fault the organizers for that. But yeah, as I mentioned, it is a little vague. Now, people cheat unintentionally is the thing. They might accidentally draw too many cards. They might play the rules a little wrong. You're kind of supposed to know the rules before you go in. There isn't going to be a judge over every table. That's a little ridiculous. Although you do have Vegas security, maybe they can. Well, they're pretty good at the blackjack table. Let's just say that. So maybe some board game loving security might help. Okay, I'm going a little too far here. The point is, it's probably inevitable that someone's going to cheat, and either intentionally or unintentionally, and I just don't know how well it's going to be handled. The Especially because cheating can influence the game, it may have to restart the whole game in some sense. If I'm losing because it turns out somebody cheating, and I find out later I'm already eliminated, is there some compensation for that, or you know, happen? It probably will happen. So I'm curious to see how that'll play out. But again, you can't really. It's hard to have a very specific rule about it, as I said, and also time control as well, because of the format being so strict and each game being so important. I have to win to move on. If I were playing, I would be not thinking about my turn on other people's turns. I will be watching them like a hawk to make sure they do everything correctly and asking them to clarify everything they do, just so that there's no chance of them making a mistake, which could give them an unintended advantage, or intended if they're literally cheating. So when time control might get come up, I'm going to be taking a very long time, and it's unclear just how far I can push the envelope in terms of how long I can take on my turn to think, and just how long a game can take in general. So, that's just up in the air. I understand you can't really do much about it, but it is a concern. However, overall, as I said, I think the rules are written pretty well and they do cover a lot of things, so I do commend the organizers for that. And so the final thing is I'm really kind of confused about the event itself. And they do mention specifically that kind of a sub goal is to grow the hobby. And, that's great. I hope they do that. But I don't see how this event does that. And to really put it into terms that kind of go with the whole theme of the event, the World Series of Poker has been around a very long time, but the whole poker boom started when the World Series of Poker not only was televised, but there was a whole cam so you could look at the cards as the players were playing, so you knew what they had, you could see what everyone had, and the commentators would uh, help you play along. So really at home you could play along and see how it's done and try to get involved because you're there, you're playing along. It's showing the game in a way that couldn't be shown before. And I, that's kind of what's needed. Just having this event, I don't think is anything. It's just saying, "Hey, look, this is the World Series of board gaming for, people that are already interested in board gaming." It's not really spreading the hobby at all, from what I can tell. It'd be like the World Series of baseball. Well, who's going to be interested in that besides people who already know about baseball? So I think the point would be to try to get it out there, and so more people are interested. I don't know how this is advertised, and perhaps there's a way that this is expanding the reach of board gaming, or the visibility of board gaming, but I don't think it's being streamed or televised at all. And I don't think, even if it is, that there's a way to have it be interesting to watch. So there's that. And then the event itself, there's a bunch of sponsors there. Um, I don't know why they're there. Like, is there a panel? Are they? Um, it doesn't. It's not really advertised. It just says that they're working with entities to help grow the hobby. But like, what are they doing? And on top of all that, there's plenty of side events. Apparently, there's a lot of side events for other games. There's stuff you can do. You can just play some side tournaments if you get eliminated early in the tournaments, which is going to happen to like 75 to 80% of the people in each tournament every round. So that's a bit much, but it's still a bit weird. It feels like this is an opportunity to really have kind of like a convention, sort of like BGG Con, where you have a big library and people play like all kinds of games. You could have like dealers and people selling stuff. I don't know. It's really unclear how much of that there is at this event. And so I hope it's a lot because that'd be really cool. But again, the tone is a little weird because in the FAQ, especially when people are asking, like, what to do here when you're not in the tournament, they always bring up, hey, explore Vegas. You're here in Vegas. And that's just weird because we're supposed to be coming for your event. If part of the appeal is where you are, that's not a selling point to your event. That's just a selling point to go to Vegas. So I find that a bit maybe disingenuous as to what your event's trying to do. If you're trying to really like spread board gaming, then you want an event where people are board gaming, not going around Vegas and exploring Vegas. And so, yeah, for those reasons, that is why I'm not going to the World Series of Board Gaming. Also, I lost the money on crypto and I can't afford it anyway, so there's also that. But, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the feelings I have, I hope the event is great. I hope people have a really good time at it. I hope that it does its goal of what it says, grows the hobby. I just don't understand it. But if you know, or if you think I'm wrong, or have reasons why you think I'm wrong, or if you go to the event and it's great, please let me know. I'd love to hear positive things about the community and events like this. And as I said in the beginning, I do love competing. I love playing in tournaments. So, if I'm wrong, I'd like to go to this event in the future. You know, a year later when crypto rebooms and I can afford it. And yeah, I'm realizing I don't really know how to end this video. It's kind of rambly. I just kind of did it. It's just, I don't know. I had this anxiety. It's harder for me to talk about this kind of stuff because I do feel kind of like I'm crapping on an event that I want to do well. It's a bit weird. So, anyway, as always, thanks for playing along.